So let's start. My name is Dominika, and since 2012, I've been working with people to build a culture of effective communication based on trust and shared responsibility. I've worked in NGOs and business environments in both international corporations as well as agile self-managing organization in IT. I am also a trainer and project coordinator. I've been conducting trainings and workshops on diversity and inclusion topics in companies. Currently, I'm involved in the design and implementation of activities related to managing diversity and inclusion at Monterail. And today I would like to introduce you to the topic how to build inclusive communication in an organization. And one more time, hi guys. So how many of you hear this phrase at work, sometimes in meetings, among friends? And how many of you identify with the guy's face? I've noticed that this is kind of a habit for some people to greet this face, hey guys. And I must admit that I myself sometimes unconsciously greet like that in the meeting. I've tried many times over past time to consequently remove the collective noun guys from vocabulary because it's a needlessly gendered way to refer a general group of people. And I think we and our audience deserve better than that. And also because language is powerful enough to evolve. And because we are working hard to build inclusive spaces at work, at home, also in a community, to create spaces where people actually feel welcome to be themselves. So why would we address a group of people in a gendered way if we don't need to? Because I respect my friends and colleagues, and when I address them, I want to do it in a way where people feel represented and comfortable. That is why I try to rid of this phase. So how can we develop a more inclusive communication style? First of all, recognize your bias, unconscious bias. Gender gaps in the workspace are not overcome by good intentions. Each of us must acknowledge our unconscious bias, gender biases, or other biases, and look at the ways those biases influence our thoughts, sometimes feelings, and sometimes also behaviors. No one is immune. Further, we need to collectively step past the antiquation of gender binary and move towards inclusion of a broad range of genders and identities. The second thing is to engage in self-reflection. The first step to become more culturally competent is to inventory your biases and cultural self-efficiency. So if you gain more self-awareness, you will become more likely to learn about your verbal and also non-verbal communication impacts others. You can engage in your own self-awareness inventory. For example, you can ask yourself, what is the cultural history of your family? What did you learn about the race during your childhood? How has your cultural background impacted in the way you feel about other identities? You can also try to describe memory that you have about race and what did you learn, or describe your first interaction with someone that had disability. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is long life learning. Actively and consciously challenge yourself to widen your own views. Inclusive communication, like inclusion, has no finish line. It's a conscious journey, and it's only possible to take this journey with small steps. So educate ourselves. Okay, so let's dive into examples. These are just examples that, of course, can be multiplied. Here, I will come back once to the point of lifelong learning. As language evolves, it is good to be aware and vigilant. And so just let not be afraid to make a mistake sometimes. What is important to notice is to be open to feedback and work on it. So I prepared you some examples, for example, like to use in internal or external communication. Instead of maternity leave, we can use parental leave. Instead of mankind, which has got men and the word, we can use humans. Instead of sex change or sex change operation, when we refer to the person, we can use post-transition person. Try to not use mentally ill. More efficient is person with DSM diagnosis. Ladies or office girls can be just office stuff. Him, her, she, he. We can use they, especially when we do not know the pronouns. Foreigners try to use immigrants, visitors, travelers, old person, young person. We can use just older adults or simply a person. A young person is also a person. And the highlight of the presentation, hey guys, as a greeting, we can simplify use hi all or hi everyone, and it will be much more inclusive. Okay. External communication. Internal communication between our employees, colleagues, and friends is just as important as we communicate with the outside world as a company. So let's move to the examples of external communication, examples of which, of course, can be used in building internal communication as well. So whether you are writing a job description, social job ads, I don't know, email, text message, it's important that each and every communication is unbiased and inclusive. Of course, this is easier said than done, since it may be difficult to fully comprehend how others may perceive a job posting. For instance, describing the role as being well suited to recent graduates suggested a bias against older workers, older adults. These tips for writing inclusive job description, these are tips for writing inclusive job description, emails, etc. First of all, try to remove gender-coded words. I split it to female-coded words like empath, sensitive, feel, support, honest, trust, commit, interpersonal, compassion, and also male-coded words like aggressive, confident, fearless, ambitious, assertive, independent, dominant, driven, superior. So it's really good to try to avoid those words while building job ads. The second thing is to avoid gender bias. Women will typically only apply for a job that they meet 1% of the qualification. It's of course not a golden rule, but it happens very often. And to avoid unconscious gender bias deterring women from applying to your job, consider eliminating requirements that are not essential. So if the position is one where training can easily be provided, don't ask for experience in software. Generalize areas where transferable skills are okay, and of course, clearly outline which qualifications are required and which are preferred. And the last thing, eliminate racial bias. Like gender bias, racial bias can be implied, and oftentimes it's unknowingly perpetuated by recruitment professionals who otherwise recognize the importance of inclusive job description. By paying careful attention to words and phrases, you can help eliminate implicit and explicit bias in your job postings. And additionally, I put some phrases that are good to avoid. Also, like in your job ads, putting a young and energetic, party atmospheric, work hard, play hard. It's simply dedicated to young people and can be biased because of it. Digital native, calling all recent colleagues and grads, etc. So try to avoid those phrasing as well to build more inclusive job ads. So what are the rules of inclusive communication? First of all, empathy. Do not approach inclusion or specifically inclusive communication as a checklist of experiences or accommodation to, tick off a list. Instead, try to connect empathically with your audience. Think about their experiences and how language and communication can impact in the way they absorb your message. For example, consider the need for employee use a name other than that's on their legal documents. To understand this more, you can read more about that naming and what it can mean for the trans community. So enabling flexible names policy, it's not just a process to put in the place, it is actually a way to acknowledge and recognize trans identity. The second thing is culture. Try to work with your community groups, for example, employee resource groups. Try to work with them by empowering them and giving them a voice in your communication. They know their community better than anyone, hopefully. So ask for their experiences, listen and take them to heart. You can also consider a program that features their stories and experiences in official communication. This empowers them and gives them visibility, gives them more authenticity to your more authenticity to your communication. And the last thing is empowerment itself. So provide tools for inclusion and showcase role model behavior. Actually, leaders are the role models, whether they want to be or not to be, or whether they are good role models or not. They simply become role models as everyone looks up to them. And I think they need your support, including coaching, sometimes guidance to be expert in communication. Leaders set the bar for the rest of the company, so empowering them goes a long way for your organization. You can also provide resources like, inclusive language guides, books, resources for everyone in your organization so people can build their own skills, awareness. They can grow with the knowledge about the inclusiveness and inclusive organization, inclusive language. You have to meet people where they are and give them the tools to grow. You can also considering offering a library of books to borrow online or not online, on topics on diversity and inclusion. You can try to schedule a book discussion club, discussion group to encourage people to drive their own learning journey by listening and discussing relevant meetings. And this empowerment, this this empowerment, those things empowers them to actually take ownership in creating an inclusive work environment, because at the end of the day, we all are responsible to use inclusive language and to build an inclusive work environment. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Do you have any questions? There are 4 minutes left. So if you have any, how would you address when this happens? Simply try to give an example how to use more inclusive language, how to use more inclusive language. It happened to me, and my friend approached me and just told me that, Dominika, you used the guy's phrase, for example. And actually, I was pretty happy that she did it, because sometimes you are unconsciously use such phrase. So just be aware of your biases, be aware of your language, learn, give examples to others, and be open for feedback. Like you are in the meeting. Would you suggest to address? Would you suggest to address it after the meeting or in the middle of it? I would suggest to do it after the meeting. Sometimes person is so focused on what they are telling, so it will be more delicate to do it after the meeting, but right away after the meeting. How would you create awareness in a company? I think I would start with myself, and then I will create a space for people to talk about the language. Actually, at Monterail, we have a lot of initiatives to create awareness. We use inclusive language, and Polish is quite more tricky because of the feminitives. But if you have in your company a structure, I would start also with the training with the leaders and or mentors or managers. Yeah. No question. It really helps to think. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was pleasure to do it and to share my knowledge. Thank you very much. Have a great sessions and have a great time during the conference.